Hello, everybody. Welcome in. Welcome in. It's a pleasure to be with you. Today, I have a very special guest for you. My friend Wayne Kealohi Powell. He's the founder of the Hawaiian Shamanic Bodywork. This is an educational vehicle focused on highest wisdom of the soul's ability to create health and abundance in life. Wayne is a holistic health educator, motivational speaker, minister, author, Kumu, Lomi. He's got 3 handsome sons and a beautiful granddaughter. Wayne, thank you for being with me today.
It's my pleasure. Aloha.
Aloha, aloha. So I want to start off by asking you to tell us about your story. How did you get involved in Hawaiian shamanism, and what's the journey there?
Well, I was visiting Hawaii on vacation with my wife. We were 5 months pregnant with our second son, and we had a little one that was already 3. And one night, this was in Princeville on the north shore of Kauai, my wife noticed on the scroll about local events that there was a kahuna speaking at the Hanalei Bay Resort. So she said, "Hey, I think you should go. It sounds pretty interesting. He's going to talk about the secrets of Huna." I says, "What's that?" She goes, "Well, if you don't go, you won't find out." So it was a beautiful full moonlit night. There's no street lights in Princeville. So there was just moonlight all the way. A couple of blocks I walked to the Bay Resort, and it was Serge Kahili King that was lecturing that night. And, every word that he said I hung on, because it sort of awakened something in me that I didn't even know was sleeping. So it was like a light turned on that I didn't even know existed. So I couldn't get enough of what I was hearing. So after the lecture, I went up to him and I said, "Hey, I'd really like to study with you." And he said, "Okay." And I said, "But I live in Los Angeles, and I have a small family. I can't come to Hawaii for training." And he smiled and he goes, "That's all right. I live in Los Angeles too, and training's starting in a couple of months." So I took every one of his courses, all 3 levels, within 4 months.
Wow.
I was hooked.
You That's awesome. That's awesome. And what have you been doing since then? Once you did the courses for yourself, it must have lit a fire for you.
It really did. And I started bringing Serge to Los Angeles as his promoter and facilitator for his workshops. So we did that for a couple of years. And then Serge decided to move to Kauai. And so he did this. It was 87. And then I still brought him for courses back to LA. And then he said there was a position open in the office. And I said, "Whoa." So he helped me and my family move to Kauai from LA so I could work in his office. Wow. And during that time, it was a very amazing time for all of us, because his book, Urban Shaman, he had just finished writing it, but it hadn't been published. So I was in the office and he's like, "I don't know, I'm not going with the Theosophical Society anymore for a publisher. I don't know what to do with this." And one of the students that I had brought to him, she was the little bird that carried him to Simon & Schuster, one of the major publishers here. And that book now is in several languages.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
It's really flown. And my students will know that The Urban Shaman is the book that forms a basis philosophy for what came to be called Gorilla Zen Yoga that's grown out of it. I read The Urban Shaman while on holiday with Nirvana in France. And it was like it was the first time it made sense what I was experiencing, and that's what I've invited you to talk in this video is about the 7 principles of Hawaiian shamanism, because as I understood and learned those principles, it gave a bit of context to the spiritual awakening experience that I was having. And it gave the sort of rules to follow, the principles to follow. So if you're okay with that, should we get into that part of the video and you can explain for our students the 7 principles?
Sure. Thank you. You know, I had the same experience, David. Each one of the principles, I realized over time, was like a window. You know, there's a 7-pointed star, the Huna star. Gosh, I wish I had a picture of it with me. Perhaps we can plant that in the video afterwards.
Sure, yeah. I'll throw one up.
Yeah. And let me turn this phone off. Oh boy.
A wonderful ringtone.
I'm doing a book tour soon, and there's so many things to be connected. So, so each one of the points of the Eye of Kanaloa, or the 7-pointed Huna star, is a principle in the Kahili system. And as you know from reading the book, you know, Serge was adopted into the Kahili clan here on Kauai to receive this knowledge. And so, Ike, Kala, Makia, Manawa, Aloha, Mana, Pono, each one of them on the points of the star, they hold an awareness, I guess is the best way to say it, a perception of an aspect that we have in our consciousness that can lead us to the center of the star, which is what we call in our system Malu. In Serge's system, he calls it the Eye of Kanaloa. So you can go in through Ike, Kala, Makia, Manawa, Aloha, Mana, Pono, and wind up what I call home, which is in your heart, feeling aligned and balanced, aware and responsive to your immediate environment. And this is what shamanism is all about. It's a way of perceiving things differently than we were raised to perceive them. For instance, let's take Ike. Ike primarily stands for awareness. And awareness is all there is. Right now, we're being aware of the computer, the technology, the words, the air we're breathing. How much can we be aware in any moment of everything in our environment, our surroundings? Because this connection of unity, which is Kala, all things are connected, is what offers us a platform for expansion in any given moment. And the third principle would be, what are we focusing on to expand into? You see, so Serge's system, it's very succinct from the first principle to the last, how if you keep opening each window or each door, you arrive in a place you've never been before. So we've got this awareness, and it has to do with all systems being arbitrary is one of his corollaries. Now, isn't that interesting? That in the very first principle of a system, it annihilates itself. All systems only mean what they mean to you. In other words, it's saying, hey, Huna is just another system. If it works for you, awesome. And obviously it's worked for you, David.
Yeah.
And it's worked for me as well. Otherwise, this book, I don't think would have been written. And I did a lot of research on the idea of Huna and where it came from. Because when Max Freedom Long was observing the Hawaiians, when he came to Hawaii in the early 20th century, what he observed them doing, he called magic.
Mm.
And he started writing papers on Hawaiian magic. Well, Serge stood on that because Max never was fully integrated into the Hawaiian culture. He was an observer from the periphery as a school teacher that was hired to teach here English in Hawaii. Whereas Serge, on the other hand, was adopted into a Hawaiian family and given the esoteric system that you and I have fallen in love with.
Mm.
And so what's interesting is over the last 25 years, as I work with more and more Hawaiians, I'm able to see how Serge's system is quite unique because nothing before it is anything like it, really. And so when I was introduced to Serge's, pardon?
Do you mean in the Hawaiian tradition or just in general across the spectrum?
In the Hawaiian tradition.
Mm-hmm.
It had never been labeled or categorized or moved forward as an esoteric science in such eloquent and clear, crystal clear language as Serge King has done.
Mm-hmm. I don't think I would have understood it if he hadn't have put it into such simple terms.
Yeah, I agree with you because Max Freedom Long was kind of just guessing at what was going on.
Mm.
He was intuitively witnessing things and making assumptions.
Mm.
Where Serge was given all the keys to the kingdom. And if you read his book, Kahuna Healing, it expresses how that took place when he was initiated by the unseen ones into his career.
Mm-hmm.
And this can happen to anyone, including you.
So let's, if you could just list each one out for the students, I'll give them a sheet, a note sheet that will have a bit more detail, and maybe you could help me piece that together afterwards. But if you could just list out the 7 principles and their names and what they kind of stand for, and then maybe dig a bit deeper into each one.
Do you want me to use it verbatim from the Urban Shaman book? You know, all the corollaries and the things he used, or do you want me to just kind of shoot from the hip?
I would go for shoot from the hip. I think I trust you.
Okay. Okay, you got it. All right. Namakua, aloha, mahalo. Auhea na amakua, na akua na kahuna na kapua. Aloha mai, hiki mai, hele mai. E ho'o mai ka'i. Ikakane keia. E ho'o mai ka'i I kumu keia. I ke aloha. I ke kala. I ka malu, I ka mana, I ka pono. Aloha no, aloha no, aloha no. Aloha kako. Kako means everyone and everything.
Mm.
Welcome to Huna 101.
Magic.
Yes. And you know, I prefer to call it kahuna science, David.
Mm.
Yeah, because that's what I hear from the other kahunas, specifically Abraham Kawai. He never referred to it as Huna. It was always kahuna science. Because it is. Huna is a science of life. It's not a religion, although Kahuna Daddy Bray, his little pamphlet, called it the religion of Hawaii. But technically it's not. It's a philosophy of a way of being on this planet that works. So you take the first principle, Ike, the world is what you think it is. This is very provocative because what else could the world be but what you have in your mind about it? And yet that's not all it is. That's only what you have in your mind about it. So that sets one on a journey of adventure about, well, what really is the world? You find the truth within and without. And that's the paradox. It's not only what you're thinking. That's a no-brainer. Well, then what is it? It's a vehicle for expression that our awareness can grow through and mature our soul. So EK is very powerful because when you arrive in any moment, like the moment we're in now, to fully arrive, you need to leave the past behind. What you're thinking took place before this moment. Unplug so that you can fully arrive and receive what this moment has to offer. Miracles are commonplace. What we think of as miracles are happening every single moment, but we are not aware. And that's what EK is all about. Be aware of all the energy in play, the elements, the kingdoms of nature. How are they dancing in this moment to provide us with the experience that we have right now? And what is it offering us in regards to our own personal growth? So much to be aware of. So to fully arrive in any given moment, you must realize that it's awareness that's arriving in that moment. And that leads us to Kala, because there are no limits to that awareness. The only limits that we have to awareness, once again, is the programming that's in our mind. The identification that we put on things. This is a tree, this is a desk, this is a door, this is a window. The window doesn't know it's a window. The tree doesn't know it's a tree. These are just identifications we place on things so we can language and share with others. Yet from the shaman perspective, all things are connected. And through awareness, you can go deeply into anything and have it reveal itself to you, what it actually is on a molecular level, which would be physical, on a spiritual level, on an esoteric level. We can merge with anything in our environment and have it reveal to us its true nature. Because all things are connected and there are no limits. Kala. Kala also means to untie, to set free, to let go, to release, and to forgive. So Kala is the name given for the technology of forgiveness. And what that simply looks like is there's only two things going on in the body, in the mind. This or this. And in body work and in all, forms of psychology and therapy, this is all we're doing. We're locating this, and through magic, we're creating this. And that's Kala. We're letting go of the tension, we're letting go of the crystallized memories that are causing us pain. We're letting go of the limited belief that keeps bringing an experience to us that is not something we truly want. And see, kahunas, in kahuna training, they were trained not to have a fixed belief. And this is another realm of there are no limits, because they would use a belief as a tool to affect a change in the 3D.
Mm.
But they wouldn't attach to it like we do for a whole lifetime.
So in other words, if a belief isn't serving you to accomplish the goal of love that you want to, then switch the belief.
Let it go. Kala.
Mm.
And you'll see this everywhere. These principles are science. And that leads us to Makia. So Makia primarily is focused attention. And a great Indian master once said, you are your attention. Because at any given moment, what you place your attention on, that is who you are. Yeah. And through the Kahili system, Serge states that energy flows where attention goes. You know, and the mind hears this and it's like, oh yeah, no brainer, you know. Yet, this is pure science. I'll give you an example. One of the things I do when I do Kahuna science training is I'll take a fairly heavy chair and I'll ask for a volunteer. And I'll say, okay, now lift the chair and calculate its weight. And they lift the chair and they think, oh, okay, you know, maybe 10 pounds, you know. Okay, set it down. Right. Now, put your attention up here and lift the chair again. Now, one of the principles of Makia is everything is energy. And energy flows where attention goes. So the chair is energy. And my attention is here. So when I put my attention here and I lift the chair, it's weightless. It loses at least half of its physical weight. So remember that next time you're moving a heavy dresser or a couch. So it's science. And it's a beautiful science that can really help one live an effective, creative, productive life. So the reason this works is because wherever we focus our attention, our awareness is pouring our energy into that object of attention. This is how telekinesis, I mean, if I were a very skilled kahuna, I could let go of this pen and have it float here in space. And in fact, part of one of the graduation exercises for kahuna training in ancient times, in College of Kahuna Science, which was on Molokai, was to lift a very heavy, large stone with your mind.
Like Luke Skywalker.
Yeah. So this is the power of our awareness that has no limits when focused on a task.
I love the idea that whether or not you can make the pen float depends on how strongly you believe that it's possible to do it. Because if that belief is there, then it's possible for it to happen. The problem is if you're trying to show it to someone else, the amount that you believe that they believe it's going to float is going to keep it from floating. And so the more people you add to it, the more conscious beings that you add to it, the trickier it gets to bend the rules of physics. But that doesn't mean that you can't bend the rules, right?
Right.
Fascinating.
It's like walking on water.
Yes, yes.
Or on fire, which is a very common occurrence here.
Oh yeah. Walking. Oh,
People walk on
walking. Yeah,
fire all the time.
of course. And of course, Tony
Millions
Robbins
of
does
people.
that in his events, doesn't he?
Yes. He'll have thousands of people walking on fire in one weekend who never dreamed of it before.
Wow.
And no one gets burned.
So did he learn that from Hawaiian tradition? Is that where he took the idea?
Tony Robbins is an avatar.
Right.
You know, he came with his own gifts. And in response to that question, I would have to default to what Serge always says.
Mm.
You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
If it works, it's Huna.
Yeah, that's a good point. It doesn't matter who said it first. It doesn't matter what the name is. If it works, it's the same thing.
Yeah. And this brings us to the fourth principle, Manawa. And things really begin to come together with Manawa. Now is the moment of power. Simply because there isn't any other moment. That shows you how much is in our mind that isn't in this moment. And you know, this is the problem. This is what creates the problem for people who are holding on to an expired past of some sort, a relationship, a job, a car, a dog, whatever. Its usefulness in one's life has come and gone, and yet we're still holding on. Yeah. And primarily, I think Manawa has everything to do with our thinking mind. When you back up one's principle and you think, well, where are we focused? Are we focused on the past? You know, Dr. Hugh Lin, who was the kahuna that brought forth self-ID, Ho'oponopono, he says in his book, Zero Limits, that there's only two things happening in your mind. You're either operating from memory or from inspiration.
That's beautiful, yeah.
And the operating from memory is a very subconscious program that happens automatically, involuntarily. We are pretty much always operating from memory. Just the way it is.
Yeah.
That's the way the mechanism is designed. And this is why we smoked so much pot and took so much acid in the 60s.
Yeah, to try to break
that wasn't working for us. That wasn't working for us.
Yeah.
And that would bring us so much present that we would actually realize what this moment was about and what it had to offer. It was a great venture for the baby boomers into esoteric science. Yeah. And yet nowadays, you know, we can do this with meditation. I guess a lot of the world population who is becoming awake is using ayahuasca.
Yeah.
Because it's a great teacher to bring you into an awareness of what programs are running that you're not even aware of. And this is valuable information if you're wondering why your experience of life is the way it is.
One of the things
I'm not saying go out and take ayahuasca, but I'm just showing the progress of how through these last 40, 50 years, we've learned to drop into the moment. I think one of the greatest books that has never been bested is Be Here Now. You know, it came out in, I think, the 70s. I think Eckhart Tolle hit it on the head when he came around with, you know, the power of now. He sort of refocused that for the following generations, which is beautiful.
Yeah.
Made a whole career out of the fourth principle.
Yeah. Yeah, he did. He did. Still going strong too.
It really is.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, he
Shows
just
just
puts
how much
these,
the world needs it. Yeah,
yeah, so much peace in his voice and
yeah,
his
yeah.
presentation. Just
I, rem-
listening to him become present.
I remember seeing one of his live videos, and at the beginning of his presentation, he just slowly looked around the room and made contact with every single person. And it took him something like 10 minutes to do, but he's just locked in presence, just checking in with everyone. I remember watching that for the first time and just feeling it, feeling that
Yeah.
power.
Soul to soul connection.
Mm.
And, that's what good, the systems of, like white tantra are made of as well. When you're doing soul gazing with someone, you're becoming fully present.
Yes.
You're aware that you're letting go and that you're focusing on what is here now. And there's the first 4 principles. And where does that bring you? Aloha. It brings you into a flow of love that you haven't experienced before this moment. And what is love? It's not a feeling. It can be felt, but that's not what it is.
It's a verb. Isn't it?
Yeah. I like his corollary for aloha. Everything is aware, alive, and responsive. There's a pure shamanic perspective in any given moment. Everything is alive, aware, and responsive. Everything is alive. That would be the chair, the book, everything you see in your environment. This is pure Course in Miracles teachings as well, for people that have that reference. In the workbook in the Course in Miracles, they have you staring at a table and removing everything you think about it, all its identity, and just passively witnessing its molecular structure. And after about 2 minutes, the table starts glowing with love. And it's here. It's a servant for us to lay coffee on or do our work. It's just so beautiful. So everything is alive, aware, and responsive. And so love, aloha, to love is to be happy with. I think when we tune in to something deeply and allow it to be itself, we can actually feel the connection of oneness, of unity that we have with it. And that communication is love. Symbiotic relationship. And it can be on many levels: molecular, intellectual, etheric. This is how instant healing takes place. There's an acceptance of the wound. There's an awareness of what it has to teach us, what its message is. There's a letting go of what we actually believe or think it's about. And then there's a focus into the molecular structure of what the beings within the beings need for repair. And then there's love. In this moment, through a communion that we have with the cellular structure of the wound, we can inform the cells of their perfection because they have a memory of perfection. before the incident.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a future memory of the perfection after the healing. So what the kahuna would do would slowly, with their loving, attentive presence, would erase the break in the bone, in the cellular memory. Perfection from the past and the perfection in the future would remerge, and the bone would heal instantly.
It's almost like shifting the belief with Ike, shifting the belief of the cells from I am an injured cell to I am a perfect cell. And at the moment that it believes it to be true, the healing is complete.
In his book, Urban Shaman, I believe he calls it repatterning. Like, for instance, if you hit your thumb with a hammer while you're, pounding a nail, and the cells are going, OMG, this hurt, man. And so it starts to react. His exercise in the book would say, okay, we'll pick up the hammer and do it again 40 to 50 times without hitting your thumb. So that the memory, it's the same principle, so that the memory of it being hit fades, goes away. The throbbing stops, swelling stops, and the cells are now happy cells because you've repatterned, reprogrammed what was taking place.
Yeah. That is one of the, when I read that first, that blew my mind with how powerful that was. And
and this is something else that we can move into mana now. Mana being all about power, but it's not power in the way that we think of power. For instance, you can hug a sequoia, a redwood tree, and feel the mana that it has. You can feel the immortal soul it has, even though it's in a mortal structure that is so ancient, and yet it's just standing there, being itself. It's not winning a baseball game or cricket or anything. It's just enjoying the elements and the wind, and it's being itself is power.
That's powerful.
And it's one thing that you need to win at anything is mana. Mana is source power. It's sourced from within. And whenever we adulate something outside of us, we actually give it our power. And when we focus on something, we give it our power. For example, if I'm really, really angry at someone, I'm totally leaking my precious power to them. And this is going to cause me more harm than them. And the athletes, and this kind of comes into where what you're teaching comes into play. It's well known that Olympic athletes spend between 70 and 80% of their training here. In meditation of the perfect pole vault, of the perfect jump. What they're doing is they're training their ku.
my little girl cat is coming to say hello. Hello.
Sweet.
Please continue. I'll give us some grub.
So they are aware. See, I keep filtering all the principles through because I want your clan to have a reference for how each one of these principles stack. So let's take the Olympian athlete. They are aware that the communion of their spirit, mind, and body has to be in absolute harmony and balance to accomplish what the human body normally cannot accomplish. They want to go beyond what has been done before. So they're going to rev up this connection between spirit, mind, and body, Kane, Lono, and Ku. They're going to be aware that this combination, this harmony of this inner family is required for them for a perfect performance. They're going to let go of any limitation about that. They're going to let go of any small thinking that they can't do it. They're going to release all of that to find where there isn't a limit on their performance. And they're going to focus all of their training in this moment on the best performance possible. And this engages their heart, their love for the game, to pour mana into that performance. And then that leaves us now with Pono, which is a flow of righteousness, a flow of divine right order through their body to win the goal. So in other words, God, Almakua, is actually winning the goal through them.
Yeah.
And, God loves to win. There isn't another game in God's world.
In a sense, all they're doing is getting out of the way so that God can win, right? And all the preparation that they do and all the practice that they do, that's them getting out of the way so that a higher being can complete some action effectively through them.
And that's the principle for Pono. Effectiveness is the measure of truth. So if we're not accomplishing what we're going after, we have to look at where our thinking is not effective. What belief is holding us back? And this brings us to Ho'oponopono, which is the word pono twice. Yes, I love sharing Ho'oponopono. It's truly the birth of miracles for people.
I got a couple of questions from my students about it as well. Yeah, it definitely.
Good, excellent. Pono, as I said before, is divine right order, the flow of righteousness. And so when you put Pono together with Pono, you're actually you're co-creating, recreating that flow from something that seems apparently out of balance or not in divine right order. The word ho'o is to call in, to invoke. So ho'oponopono is to invoke divine right order returning. And it's interesting, David, the forgiveness technology that came through Zero Limits. Morna Simeona, the female kahuna that introduced it to E. Haleakala Hulin, who introduced it to Joe Vitale, who wrote the book. Back in the day, the large Hawaiian families, there'd be 4 generations meeting every night in the family room before bedtime. And each family member, after the invocation, would speak what was good about their day and what wasn't good about their day. If they had a grievance or some disagreement with one of the family members.
Mm.
So one at a time, everyone in the circle, their consciousness would be cleared and brought clean before going to bed.
Across the generations as well, so you're getting many different levels of wisdom and perspective to help you clear it.
Can you imagine if that was instilled in other cultures? How much harmony there would be on the planet?
It's one of the great tragedies that elderly people get sent off to homes with other elderly people instead of being involved in the family, you know?
And without learning how to forgive before they die.
Yeah. Oof.
This is a metaphor for sleep, because there is no such thing as death. So when they leave their body, all the undefined unforgivenesses go to sleep with them as they awake into the light. And when they reincarnate, the really heavy unforgivens return into the next life.
And again and again until they figure out how to forgive it.
This happens to us every night when we fall asleep. It is a near-death experience. If we have not forgiven ourselves or someone else when we go to sleep, we wake up with it, and we have more choices. There's only 2 kinds of forgiveness. Now or later.
And it stays in later until you decide to bring it now.
Exactly. So I loved what I was able to explore through Ike, Kala, Makia, Manawa, Aloha, Mana, Pono. And so when I put my halal, my school together, I added malu.
Okay. Because
malu is peace. You know, people come for sessions and training, and they'll say to me, "Oh, well, I'll ask them, you know, why are you here? Why have you come? And what is it that you want?" And they'll say, "Well, I want peace." And I'll just take a deep breath. I feel so much compassion for them. Because I've never met anyone who has a clue what that's going to cost them. Because everything has a price.
And something as beautiful as peace. You got to sacrifice an awful lot before you can feel it, but when you do.
Yeah, you pretty much got to give up everything.
Yeah.
You have to come to terms with all your beliefs, all your programming. I mean, you have to be so selfish that you refuse to have a judgment of yourself or anyone else ever again.
I heard a phrase recently that said, "Be selfish until you can be generous." And in a sense, it applies because a lot of people are concerned with being generous before they have been selfish enough to take care of themselves enough that they can actually give generosity appropriately and not end up causing more harm than good to both themselves and the person they're trying to be generous to.
Yeah, that's so true.
Mm.
And yet there's also a character in each of us called the rescuer.
Mm. Yeah, I know him well.
Very dangerous character.
Yeah.
But we must mature this aspect of us in order to attain sovereignty, spiritual and personal sovereignty. We come into the world alone and we leave alone, and yet we evolve with another, through another. Embrace the paradox. There's no way we can escape it.
Wow. Thank you so much, Wayne. That's a powerful, well described and significance-filled description of the different principles there. Thank you.
I want to meet my friend before we wrap this up.
Yes.
Hello. This is the Maori symbol of the tongue of truth. And every single student, since I was gifted this by a Maori shaman in the 80s, has held this talking stick. These diamonds are the Huna principles.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is a beautiful thing.
And this, my friend, is a Hawaiian nose flute. And it is said by the Hawaiians that there's a purer wind comes from the nose because it has no words. It cannot lie.
Wow.
So if you like, I can play you a little melody to close the session.
I would love that. Thank you.
Okay. All right, well, let's tune in. Let's go vertical, opening our crown chakra. And close your eyes as you breathe in aloha light through your crown into your belly. And feel the essence of your soul as we romance it with a little bit of a melody, Hawaiian style. Aloha.
Aloha.
Ahui ho, till we meet again.
Till we meet again. Thank you so much for your time today, Wayne. It's been incredible.
David, it's been a pleasure. It's my honor.
I look forward to speaking again soon. It would be great to have another interview conversation and ask for a bit more about that backstory as well. Maybe we'll get a chance to have that conversation more.
Well, take the best care of yourself, and blessings to all of your clan who are studying with you. You have quite a gift to share with them.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
You are an agent of change for Aloha Light. And so it is.
So it is. Wonderful. I hope you have a wonderful day out there in Hawaii.
Indeed. Would you like to see what it looks like today?
Absolutely.
Let's show you the mist of Hanalei. Usually I wake up to a rainbow.
Wow.
There are wild buffalo,
Wow.
about 50 of them grazing in that pasture. And there's the Hanalei River and Hanalei Bay with the summer sailboats, as you can see.
You could just stare out that balcony for hours, couldn't you?
Indeed. And there's the taro fields. I think that's a great closing shot.
I think so. I think I'll put the flute music, the nose flute, over the top of it, and we'll slowly fade it out.
Okay.
Yeah. Wonderful.